What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another Procreate tutorial, where today we're going to go ahead and create this really beautiful deer design in a style that I'm really enjoying at the moment, using the 5.4 brushes, an autumnal theme, etc. As always, you're going to need all of the requirements for today's design, so make sure to head over to the post over on Patreon using the link in the description down below. And while you're over on my Patreon, check it out, because that's where I post 3 exclusive tutorials every single month to my Patreon supporters. And the catalogue sits at well over 150, nearly 160 at the time of recording. And with 3 added every single month, that catalogue just continues to grow. And make sure you stay right to the very end, because there is an optional effect at the very end where you can either use the background that we curate throughout the whole of it, or we can make our way towards this more soft, magical looking style background. So with all that said, enjoy today's tutorial and let's get started. So once you've created your canvas, you'll be able to see on my screen, of course, I've got the guide in play for today, and all I've done is gone ahead and gone up to my actions, gone to add, I've inserted it from my photos or files, depending on where you've saved it to, and then the only other thing is tapped on the layer, tapped on rename, and then called it guide. Now, as always, if I ever go too fast in these tutorials, right up here in the top right hand corner, if you tap on the video, go to settings, you can slow me down 10%, 20%, whatever you need to, in order just to sort of make it a little bit more comfortable. Of course, it's extremely difficult to accommodate for everybody's pacing. So with our guide done, let's go to our background color. Let's go to the bottom right of the palette, hit the tick. Let's create a new layer, drag it underneath our guide. We're going to go to our colors. We are going to be grabbing this color here. It's the middle of the third column. Go to your brush. We are, of course, using the 5.4 update, standard kind of procedure at the minute with my types of brushes, but I'll swipe this to the left and find it because it's under pens. It's the Elphinstone. I've got a maximum opacity, and size is always pretty much set to 32. It doesn't really matter what your size is, if I'm honest with you, because as long as you're really light, you can get some thin lines, and if you press really firm, you get some big blocky lines. It's totally up to you. Now, first thing I want you to do is just simply get the deer added in to our design. So the first step is going to be a little bit of a kind of straightforward one, just getting the body of the deer in our scene and then going from there. So we'll make our way down the legs. You'll see me constantly just let my pressure get really light and then just go down like a line. And then when you get down to here, notice there's a ground line. Just go across it and then just tidily go up from there and then continue up the leg again. Just making sure you don't leave any gaps. Like, you don't want your pressure to be too light because you won't be able to drop the color in a second. And come down here, down into this point. Now this is sort of a whole style at the minute. I'm just really enjoying using the new 5.4 brushes, and just in general, just a style of sort of palette, really making the most of the autumnal time of year here for us anyway in the UK. So I'm just going to keep going up here and just making sure I just enjoy it while it's here, because we don't get too much time as creators anyway to enjoy like the sort of times of year, because the content moves so fast. And I always urge anybody, if you start to fall in love with a style and a particular kind of vibe to your work, don't let it go. Don't just move on. Enjoy it, embrace it, change it however you want to, so you can change things in the next design ever so slightly from the previous one, so that you can see how potentially that style can evolve into something else. So there's always a lesson kind of to be learned really from these, and as creators sometimes it's a little bit easier for us to try and say, well, we need to move on to the next thing, when we don't really need to. We could stay and enjoy it for a minute longer. Now up here in the face is when it's going to get a little bit more tricky. You've got to come down this kind of neck shape here into there, and then the eye kind of does bulge out, so you might need to bring your size down. It's totally up to you. This is totally user dependent, and then just kind of get that kind of rounding of the eyebrow and eye, and then go round the ear at the top here, which does very closely and goes right next to the antlers at the top there. So I've just kind of done that all in one motion to create like a little teardrop, and then we'll make our way up the very top here as well. Now if you're new to the channel, I do post a weekly tutorial here on YouTube for Procreate every single week. I've been doing it now for 4.5 years, nearly 5 years come the start of 2026, and so I'll just drag it into there simply because I just made a line across there. So if you want to learn and do different styles, and I urge you to always check out all the other content creators as well, so you can just see what pops up every single week. But make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out I know there's like 70% of people that are not subscribed to the channel, and you're missing out on potentially the videos popping up on your home screen, and it might just be a simple mistake potentially, not yet got round to it. It's just below the video. But 4.5 years of doing this, I definitely embrace a style now. Whenever I like a style, I just roll with it, enjoy it for a little bit longer, take my time. Because at the end of the day, it's still like my art at the end of the day as well at the same time. I like to make sure I get the most out of it and then move on to the next thing. And you always take those things with you anyway, you know, what you learn. Now I think I've only got one more line to do just down here. Lovely stuff. Now once you've done the same, you should be able to drag and drop your color into that space. Now potentially there is a gap. So you've got one or two options. You can drag and drop the color in and then hold and drag to the left hand side to lower the threshold percentage at the top there, and try it again until you go really, really low. And then that just about does it around about there. So there must be a gap somewhere, but that's not strong enough. And I'll do the same with the antler as well. And there we go. But potentially you might have to go all the way around and just triple check that you don't have a gap in there. I'm just going to round off the back there just a tiny bit more. Just trying to round that so it's not quite so rectangular. There we go. Now the only other thing then is to start blocking in some other shapes. So we'll create a new layer, drag it down and underneath our deer. We'll go to our colors and we will grab the color in top left of the palette. And we're going to draw in our tree. And I'm going to go back to 32%. I'm just going to draw in this line down here. You can make it bumpy, lumpy, whatever you want. Just draw around the base of it to the left and drag and drop your color in. You know, I do urge you to get in there, you know, rough it up a tiny bit so it's not too, you know, boring. And then we're going to draw some branches. Very simply done. Just, you know, little wiggles. Pressure gets progressively lighter as you let go and into the scene. And as I always say, try and overlap your branches. It's one thing that people just don't do. They just don't do enough overlapping where these branches, you know, create 3D environments, because of course the branches are layering on top of each other and cross over, and it looks fantastic. And then we're going to do another sort of big branch here. So I'm going to thicken that up and then also thicken that up as it kind of makes its way over here as well. And we want these branches to expand well beyond, and you can have branches sort of run out from behind the tree. All I'm doing is just progressively letting my pressure get really, really light as I get away from the tree, and then wiggling a little bit more and jittering a little bit more as I, again, exactly do that. You know, let go, let those branches get nice and thin. And again, they can come from all the way behind there, so you can create all sorts of levels of density and thickness. That's all we need to be trying to implement. Now we will potentially also lose some of this later, so don't sort of stick on it too long, because we are going to kind of fade them out once we get into adding in the foliage. Now we do then want to go ahead and create a new layer. We want to create a new layer. It's going to go underneath our deer. And then we're going to go to our colors. We want the middle of the third column. I'm going to tap away. And then we're going to go ahead and follow this line here. So it's going to come in this part here. There's going to be like a big rock there. And then that's going to sort of trickle in behind our deer with a bit of land. We'll add some details to it in a second. And then just sort of basically you kind of want to draw in a rock here to start with, because we're going to do all the rocks on separate layers. For now, we're just going to go ahead and get that in. Now, just along your horizon, just start drawing in blades of grass. And I mean really quick, super scatty, create curls and flicks and straight lines, wobbly lines, anything you can think of. Just rough up this edge here, making it completely uneven, nice and natural. And you can just get in there and just keep going all the way across. Loads and loads and loads of grass. Like we want to do the entirety of the top line here. So lots of flicks, progressively lighter pressures. You know, take your time to go like in all sorts of directions. You know, grass is so uneven, isn't it? And of course we want to make sure we get the occasional kind of really long natural growing grass lines here. There we go, that'll look lovely later on. Down over here then, we'll do the same kind of in behind what is that little rock on the left hand side too. And they're just flicks, and honestly, they like, I'm even creating, like you can see there, like a little Nike tick almost. Just little flicks, just progressively just letting it just flick all the way up. And sometimes I'm even like just scribbling like a cross, because all that is potentially like 2 or 3 lines that are really close together, and they just happen to make what looks like a little kind of like hook line here. So just flicking all the way across. You can wiggle your pen through there as well, just to rough up the land as well. And I urge you also to go down to like a smaller size so you can get some really fair lines in here, and they can literally just be scribble lines, like literally like that, just to add in that little extra element of kind of detail and variety, and flick them all over. Now I'm literally scribbling up and down to the point where sometimes they go up and down, and that's it. I've really learned lately that like there's certain things you don't need to focus on every single blade of grass, for example. In this particular example, like they are going to resemble grass, and no one's going to get in there individually and flick through each individual blade and say, hang on a minute, that one's not an individual strand. What is happening? You know, it doesn't work like that. So once you've got something like that, that is a lovely little base for us to start moving on through the rest of the tutorial. And then to do that, we're going to go to the back. So we're going to create a new layer, drag it underneath your tree all the way to the bottom. Let's go to our colors. Now we do have a variety of colors over here to start working in. So we're going to go middle of the far right column. Now my brush, I'm going to go up to recent for a minute. I'm going to swipe Mountain Lilac to the left and find it. And that brush is in Grunge, and it's the Mountain Lilac. I've been using it for my backgrounds quite a lot recently. I'm going to go up to 88% size and maximum opacity, of course. And we are going to sort of make our way in. Now the light source is going to be here, and that's going to be kind of a gap in the trees. So with varying amounts of pressure and also brush strokes as well, you can kind of just try to build up like a little bit of kind of shaping back here in our kind of forest. And honestly, like patches and variety of color will look fantastic. It's all random and scatty and all over the place. As long as you kind of, again, leave that kind of open space up here in this sort of spacing here. Then let's go ahead. We can do it on the same layer. We'll go to the top right of the palette now, and then we don't go as far as the previous line. You now just kind of layer in some additional kind of bushes and trees or whatever this is meant to be. Press a bit heavier towards the bottom. You just don't go as far as the edge of the shapes that you've just previously done. It's really that simple, honestly. Then go to your colors. We'll go ahead and we'll grab the top of the fourth column. Now what we will do is we will try now to just leave around the edge of our deer, because we want to sort of naturally, almost in a sense, give ourselves a little bit of spacing around it, so it'll end up with a bit of a glow almost later on. Now darken up towards the bottom and in towards this left hand side. You know, you may want to bring the brush size down now to the 50% marker. You can just tap in here, keep darkening that up, and just a few taps. You can occasionally go like a little bit higher and like backwards in the design, but you can start to see already a little bit of a resemble of some glow. We're going to go to the middle of the second column from the right. Again, we'll go up to the 88% marker, and we'll just get some like larger, a little bit more sort of dark shaping into this area here. These are potentially some trees and bushes, etc., very close towards us. You can get a few patches in down here as well. It's not to say you can't go like down and in behind the deer, that's fine, but just leaving that little bit of natural spacing will give it some attention later on. Now I've just gone down to 55% just so I can tap and push some colour here and there to literally patch in some tones. We'll go to our colours, grab the bottom of the same column, and then these are our final colour. So let's go to 88%. I say final colour, it's our final sort of greyish tone. We have some reds, we have all those beautiful autumnal tones to add in here. So over here, just keep tapping until you make it fairly dark, and everybody's background is going to look different. So yours will look different to mine. Yours potentially will even look better than mine. Just roll with it, I promise you it'll look good. Now from there, we're going to go ahead and add in, as I said, those all lovely autumnal tones. So let's go ahead and we'll go to our layers and we will create a new layer. We'll tap on it and bring it down to 50%. We'll go to our colours and we're going to start working in all of these kind of tones here in sporadic sort of application. So we'll grab the top of the third column, bring that size down to maybe 36%, and we'll just start tapping away. Now what you want to try and do is kind of like the edge of kind of that the darkest lines that you created earlier. Just try and sort of outline it a little bit and try and basically like itemize like a few shapes in there that you can see that you think, hang on, like down here I'm going to sort of chuck in what will be a bush like shape here. So just a little bit of brown just to get us started. You can bring the color tones down here too. And also, you know, you can make something up as well. You can just like add in a bunch of brown in the middle here and it's a bush of some sort. Then go to your colors and start working in the more colorful tones. So we'll grab the top of the fourth column. Brush probably wants to be a bit smaller, 22% perhaps. and save the top for like the brightest oranges and yellows. Add in this tone maybe a little bit closer towards the bottom. Just tap some patches and pushes and scuffs, all sorts of stuff in here, just to try and start warming up the background a little bit. There we go, some lovely little patches throughout there. Then we'll go to our colors and we'll grab these lovely brighter tones. Now, in fact, let's jump to the red, bottom of the 5th column, just so we can start layering in what is essentially the darkest of the more vibrant tones. So a little bit of red up here in our scene. You can push this into here. I can create like a bit more vibrancy in here now, a little bit more red. It's not to say you can't add any red towards the bottom, but we wanted those darker tones to live a little bit further down. Try not to make it all too one big blob either, you know, have like one separated space. Let's then just maybe a little tap of something throughout here. Then let's go to our colors and grab the orange, middle of the 4th column. And again, let's get those lovely brighter tones in a little bit higher. Now this brush, if you tap and push and you don't drag, you won't get as much color. Like if you tap and drag, you really will like get a little sort of boost in the saturation. So kind of take your time to tap and push rather than drag. We don't necessarily want to create like too much color. I'm going to add in like a few patches of the more vibrant tone down here on the top edge. I can layer myself on top a little bit here and there. That's looking nice. Let's go to our colors and grab the yellow, bottom of the 4th column. And again, we're going to get more vibrant again. So you can bring your brush size down to like a 10%. Lots of little patches of the brightest yellow up here where the sun's perhaps just brightening them up, bringing them into the scene. A couple of patches here and there throughout all of this. And let your brush size get smaller because you can just tap away and just create like what is essentially like purposeful detail, like a little leaf here and there. Now it's not to say you can't go back into say like the red again, bottom of the 5th column, and then break that yellow up now with some red tones on the back of them. And also try not to overdo it. If you feel like you have overdone it, just simply go ahead and grab your eraser and just, in fact, go back to your brush, hold down on your eraser, or switch it to the same brush, and then you can actually just chip away at this. Look at that, and just take so much color away in a good way, and then you're good to go, and you can sort of move things around, have fun laying out your design. Now, to be honest with you, I could probably do a lot of adjustment here. To be honest, like this is just something I want to show you I'm going to do. I'm going to grab this top area here, just with the selection tool, color fill turned off. I'm going to grab my cursor. I'm going to move it back in the scene a little bit. I want to move it over towards there. And I know that seems a bit rogue in terms of like a cut. And I'm even going to now grab my eraser and just sort of break those two up from each other so they're not connected. I just wanted to give the sky a bit more space, move that across into the scene, a bit closer towards the edge of the design as well, in terms of my little guide that I've provided. So you can do the same there as well. By all means though, we can also go ahead and go to our colors. We can grab a slightly darker tone, the bottom of the 2nd column, and we can go back to the layer below. So that was the original layer. Size probably wants to be around about 20%. You could probably bring your opacity down to 50 if you want, just so you don't overdo it. And now you've got kind of your main shapes in here. You might want to get in here and just have a dabble. I'm going to go a bit bigger now, 30% on the brush size. A little bit of a dabble over here to just add in a little bit of darkness in there and a little bit of darkness down there too, just to try and add in an extra little bit of tone in there. But all in all, I'm happy with that as like an abstract background for our scene. Let's move up into the tree then. So you can merge those two layers together. The one thing I urge you to experiment with is if you tap on your autumnal colors, you can crank them up if you really want to, you know, bring them right up into the scene a bit more. It's totally up to you. I'm only going to increase it about 5% up to 55. Now, if we go in front of our tree, we're going to create a new layer. We're going to go ahead and go to our brush, and we want to change our brush. I'm going to go up to recent because I can find it from there. We want the Biceno brush. So I'm going to go find it, and that is in Creative and the Biceno. We're going to go ahead and go to our colors. We want the top of the 3rd column. Your opacity wants to be max. Well, actually, to be fair, you could probably drop that to about 75%. Size, we'll start it at 20, and we're working up here. And these are going to be a little bit more in focus, so you can tap and push, and you'll get these kind of scarce little sort of dashes of like paint almost. And that's going to sort of build up the structure of our whole scene here. Now, you are on top of your tree, so you can drag the color like across and over to that left-hand side. With this brush especially as well, if you drag, you'll get some really intense color. But if you do a very short burst, like a tap and a drag, you will get some nice faint colors, and that's what we want to start with. You want to be in full control and be able to build up like the opacities. You don't want things to be too bold and strong early doors. You want to be able to take your time, dictate where the color comes in its strongest form. Get some down here as well, where like it maybe just pops its head right round from the opposite side of the tree perhaps. And you can go over the top as well to create a lovely frame. Now, one thing we want to try and do is roughly around about here, you want to kind of leave a circular gap. I want the sun to be able to beam through there shortly. So don't worry if you've already added some in. We'll just use our eraser in just a second, and we'll just try and curate a natural gap in the tree by just using the eraser instead. So just going to keep patching my way through here. I think that looks pretty good for now. And again, I've got a bit of a circular space there that I can definitely emphasize the sunlight later on. In fact, that gap's probably even a little bit too big, so I'll probably just chip away at that a bit more. Now at this stage, we can go to our colors. We can start adding in all the different tones in here as well. So we're going to just go to let's jump straight to the middle of the fourth column, and you're going to start adding in the beautiful orangey autumnal tones on top of your shadows. Scatter them throughout the whole of the tree. Leave some shadows. Shadows are key at the same time. Now we do have like an effect in a minute where essentially we're going to duplicate the layer. Then we're going to go ahead and add in some like a smooth gradient of color in here. So this won't be your be all and end all in terms of the colors either. So let's then go to a little bit of red, just a little bit of red at the bottom of that fifth column. A couple of dapples of the red over here. As I've taught you before, if you're happy with the density, just tap on the layer and alpha lock it so you can't add in any more color in the gaps. It'll always stay based off of what you've already drawn in. That way you don't add in too much, bulk out your tree too much, make it too solid. We'll grab the yellow, bottom of the fourth column, and again we'll get some of these lovely autumnal tones in here. Occasionally I'm like scribbling my pen just so I can layer the color on top quite nice and easily. But you still, again, want those shadowy tones in there. They're just ones that, of course, are a little bit darker. Now, what we're then going to do is we'll tap on the layer and turn off the alpha lock, because we're going to go back to our brush. We're going to go back to, you can go up to recent now, because we can then use the Elphinstone brush. As always, 32% size. Let's just go ahead and we're going to go to our colors and go back to the first color, top of the third column. And I want you just to tap and push. Now, what this is going to do is what my vision here is that these are like purposeful solid shaped leaves, and it gives you a bit of a triangular shape. So if you do like a few right next to each other or on top of each other, you can curate like a bit of a leaf like shape like these by creating like little flick offs here and there to create some leaves in here. So these are like really detailed purposeful leaves in our tree, and you can like tap and push to all different levels and just first of all, just get yourself a nice layer and a thick coating of it throughout the whole of the tree. We are going to bring in some of those other colors in a second. So let's just thicken up and sort of refine and strengthen the detail level in the tree. So just keep dashing that all the way through. Multiple little flick offs. You can create some that are like a little bit lower as well, like potentially mid-flight almost, whatever you want to do. Then go to your colors. Let's then move to the top of the fourth column, and again you can go right on top of those, so you can add in like colors to those individual leaves, but ultimately you can also just scatter them again throughout the whole. So this is where I've started to realize again where you can use a few individual kind of sharp shapes to illustrate detail, but you're using the brush prior in order to create the idea of a dense and a general shaping. So you've got like a balance of detail, yet you're at the same time keeping it kind of generalized. So yeah, there's a bit of an act going on here, to be honest with you. Let's then go to our colors and grab the middle of the fourth column, brighter again. So you can go on top of some of those dark tones. You can add in more color throughout, and again, this is just that level of detail that's just appearing should you see it, and you need a bold, sharp shape in order to portray this tree. So I'm going to keep going, and one thing I'm going to try and avoid doing is just like constantly filling out the edge of the shape a bit too much. Like I don't need the tree to have this kind of level of detail across the whole of the edge of the branches, because it's just going to create like a line eventually. You see me now just keep making my way into the tree, and I will just switch back to some of those browns and tones that we used a second ago, just to dash in a few shadows throughout those leaves as well. Now what we're then going to do is, you've got the choice. You can leave it exactly how it is, or you can go ahead and swipe it to the left and duplicate it, which will chunk it out quite a bit. Now things that are closer towards us do have additional contrast. You can see how faint it is before. Now this is optional based off of how hard you've pressed. I urge you then to pinch the two together when you're happy, and then we're going to go ahead and tap on the layer and alpha lock it. We're going to go to our colors and grab the yellow at the bottom of the fourth column. We are going to go to our brush. We are going to go to the option of basics and the Forester brush. And now you've used that brush, you're going to have used every single brush that we're going to use in today's tutorial. And if you want to, you can just give yourself a very light coat of yellow over this side here, and then that kind of tones down a few of those really dark tones, but just gives it a bit more of a yellow kind of glow to it. You can equally grab the orange in the middle of the fourth column and give this side over here a bit more of a blanket. It will kind of dull it down in a sense, but it also just gives it a generalized kind of autumnal yellow. So that is completely optional. Undo it, see what you look like before, redo it if you like it. Now I'm going to keep going with how I've obviously planned out this tutorial, so I'm going to get all my colors back in until we're good to go. And now apologies if there's any background noise that you can now hear. Now if you tap on this layer and turn off the alpha lock, the only other thing you can do of course is then go ahead and go back to your brush. You can now go up to recents because you now sort of used all the brushes. If you use the bacino and then go ahead and tap away and hold down on your eraser, you can then, with the small brush size of like 4%, you can now start just hacking away and create gaps. You can even sort of hack away at some of those leaves that you created as well. Now to be honest with you, this is probably a little bit of a kind of exercise for right at the very end of your design today. So you know, with a 10% brush size you could just scatter through here, break things up. It's totally up to you. But again, just want to give you that option for later on in today's tutorial should you want to make these lovely little adjustments. Now the only other thing you might want to do is tap on your tree here, and then using your brush, your eraser set to the bacino brush, you might want to just give some of those branches just a light little stroke over the top of them, just to kind of tone them down and not make them quite so solid and completely visible. So just a little bit of an option, especially like towards the ends of the branches, you might want to just trim them down just a little bit so they kind of flow between the leaves that we've created here. Now we've got a very simple bit of detail to add to the tree. We'll simply tap on it and alpha lock it. We'll go to our colors and we will grab the middle of the first column. We'll go to our brush, bacino brush again, set the size probably somewhere in the middle, 13%. I've got the opacity still set to 75. I'm just going to go ahead and give like the edge of the tree here like a little bit of a sort of stroke of color, and then I don't really have any gaps up the tree necessarily to add this into. I could maybe try and find a few branches just to give it a light coat too. But the main focus of doing this is so that we go to our colors and then grab the bottom of the same column, bottom of that first column, and then you can just give the edge over here a little bit of a brighter look, maybe go down to 7% and create like streaks running through the tree so you can identify like patches and unevenness and natural bits in there that are just not flat and boring. Now from there we're going to work our way forward. Let's go to the ground over here. So let's go ahead and create a new layer in front of it, tap on it and clipping mask it. Now we do have quite a lot of layers to be adding to the ground, so we're going to swipe from left to right and group it, and then tap on the group and rename it and just call it ground. It's just for organizational purposes, just so your layers don't get too crazy. Now on this layer here, we're going to go to our colors. We're going to grab the brown at the top of the third column. Bacino brush still, let's set the size to 20%. Let's go maximum opacity, and we're just going to make our way along the ground here, just trying to layer in some ground like colors. Now you'll notice I'm not filling in absolutely everywhere because I want patches, I want unevenness, I want natural gaps in here. Now you'll see these lines in the design, they're actually boulders, so they're going to come through in a second. So I'm just trying to basically dance the ground color in here a little bit over towards this right hand side where that's a little bit too heavy. I'm going to go up to about 40% here and just push up and outwards to curate like the idea of like a growing like grassy bushy plant over here, and I'm going to do the same over here too. I'm going to push up and out. Now it's super faint, you might not even be able to see it on screen quite so much, but it's there. You're just pushing up ever so slightly just to start to curate all those lovely ground-like colours in here, but also having those patches of the darkness so that that can pop through too. We then go to our colours. We grab the top of the fourth column, probably bring that brush size down now. You could probably get down to about that 20% marker. And again, we're going to start to layer in some additional highlight, and that's going to come through from that side over here, going to make its way through. So essentially the deer's on like a little bit of a grassy piece here. That colour can make its way through. Some of this is going to get covered up by boulders in a second anyway, so don't stress over it too much. Just as long as you get the colours kind of around the base of the boulders, it'll look great. Sound like a donkey from Shrek. Let's then push up some little bits of colour here outwards from our little sort of bushy plant here, and pushing up and outwards gives you the Biceno texture, and you can push that up. It'll just really make it nice and fluffy and grass-like, and you can do that throughout the whole of the scene, because the whole of the scene is going to be natural and beautiful and just like scattered grass everywhere. It's going to look lovely. And then we're going to go to our colours. We're going to grab the middle of the fourth column, bring that lighting in even more from over at the back there. Again, leave your little patches here and there in the ground, just so you've got that lovely natural beauty. Little taps here and there. Probably go smaller with your brush size, to be honest, like 20%. Little push-ups here and there. The edge of your grey blades of glass, your blades of grass over here, definitely want to have a good little bit of colour on them, because the sunlight will just capture the shape of them quite a bit. A couple of taps perhaps just towards the edge of some of these ones over on the left-hand side. But you definitely want to get that colour in there nice and bright. Again, leaving just occasional little patches of darkness. Now, it's not to say that you can't go back in and grab like the base colour the middle of the third column, and just get in there and kind of take away in certain areas where you feel like, oh, maybe I added too much. To be honest, you won't have added in too much. It'll be perfect, I promise, but it's just there as an option should you need it. So let's start working in some boulders, and they're going to be very simply done. We're going to create a new layer and tap on it and clipping mask it to the main ground. We'll go to our colours and grab the top of the second column. Your brush wants to be the elphinstone, and we are going to go ahead and make sure we just colour in this entire top area, because you've already dictated the shape. You can't change the shape at this point unless you go down to the base layer here and redraw the rock in. So this clip layer is clipped to the whole of this shape. I'm going to bring in the rock down into here. It's going to come along here, and then I'm just going to drag and drop my colour in. So I've just created a big bluish kind of rock here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our eraser, making sure we're still using the Biceno brush. It's under Creative if you need it. And then we're going to bring our size probably down to around about 9% and just keep pushing up, maybe a bit bigger. Just keep pushing up to just erase the edge here of your boulder and pushing it into the ground. You're allowing the grass to grow around it now, because you're pushing up, you're embedding it right into the ground there. It'll look lovely. Get some more colour, and then even bring your brush size, your eraser, down to the, let's go back up to the top and go to recent. We'll use the elphinstone again under pens, and then we can just a couple of little flick ups to erase but reveal the brown tones underneath. But again, you're just like embedding it. So go down to like a 12%, get some of those lovely fine lines in here, just to show blades of grass and natural just beauty of this landscape. Just wiggle your pen all the way through it, chopping away into your boulder there. Then tap on your boulder layer, alpha lock it, so you can't paint outside of it. Go to your colours and grab the middle of the same column, middle of that second column, brush, Biceno still. Size probably wants to be around about 10% or thereabouts. I've got 7 selected. I've got maximum opacity too. I'm going to sort of just dash in some highlight along here. I'm going to go a bit bigger. I am going to go up to the 20% marker and just kind of just dash in some lovely greyish tone here in the rock, and very lightly just tap around it so you can add in patches of rocky colour but not too strong. There we go. So you've got some lovely highlight that can come from above. And then I'm going to go to my colours. I'm going to grab the bottom of the same column, bottom of the second column. God, I can't talk at all. Then you can tap and patch this in. This is a little bit more blue. There we go. And then go to your colours and grab the bottom of the third column, which is your final colour. So if you pop that in the middle there, about 12%, you should be able to just add in a bit more of a brighter tone up here on the very edge of the shape, illustrating where that light is landing onto your rock, because the light's going to be coming through from here. So there we go. Got a simple highlight on there. To be honest with you, that could probably get like a bit more of a heavy application, to be honest, and just really crank up the highlight in there. And don't be afraid to also turn off your guide as well, because the guide lines might get in your way just from seeing your final kind of detail in there. So that's what we're going to roll with. I'm going to turn on my guide again because we've got multiple rocks to add in. So we're going to carry on that same philosophy a little bit further down. So we're going to go ahead and go to our layers, create a new layer, tap on it, clipping mask it. You want to go ahead and go to your colors again, top of the second column, brush, Elphinstone. I'm using recent at the top, of course. We've got this big rock here. I'm going to come up here, come along, up here, create jaggedy lines, etc., and then down right to the edge of your scene. Do the same over here, right down to the bottom, and drag and drop your color in. Then from there, go to your eraser, making sure it's still set to the Bicheno brush, so change it if it isn't. Size, it's got to around about 15%. Same effect. So you can just wiggle your pen along the bottom here, up and down in different spots, just to embed this rock right into this landscape. Lovely. Just little wanders of color all the way across the very bottom. Now in this particular rock, if we tap on it and alpha lock it, we're not going to add quite so much highlight to it. So we're going to go to our colors. We'll grab the bottom of the second column. There we go, I got it this time. Brush, Bicheno. Size, set that to about 11%. You can turn off your guide if you need to. And then you just want to kind of start to just identify kind of the shapings of the rock. Keep your pressure nice and light as always, and patch it and make it up and down. Create, bright lines, lighter lines, whatever you want. That light source is coming across from here, don't forget. So it's going to brighten up a little bit of the rock, but not everything. So you can then just tap away, scatter in some occasional little sort of specks of color, but ultimately that's all it would need in there. If we go to our color though, and we grab the bottom of the third column, you can just dance a little bit of highlight on here, just where that light is coming right through, just catches on the very tippity top of the rock. There we go, just to tie it in with the whole lighting scheme. We're going to move backwards a rock technically now, so we're going to go ahead and tap on the rock below and create a new one. Go to your colors, top of the second column, brush, Elphinstone, you guessed it. And then just in here, if we turn on our guide again, we've got another little line here. So I'm going to draw in another rock shape here, jagged, whatever you want it to be, and then go all the way around underneath that rock here and drag and drop your color in. Now, this one, you don't necessarily have to do the little bit at the bottom. You can and you can't. It's totally up to you. I mean, if you do it with the Bicheno brush set, you can just about sort of bring in some grass kind of in between these two rocks, but you can also leave it and then they are just simply like very close together. You don't have to stagger the whole design, like saying that there's grass in between here and here and here. This looks good, but it also looks good without it. So I'm probably going to sort of tone it down a little bit. I'm going to go back to the beginning and just give a few little flicks of color at the bottom, and that's it. Very, very short travel on my brush there. Only goes up to about here from here. Now, we do the same. We tap on the layer. We alpha lock it so we can't paint outside of it. Color set 2. We'll grab the top again. The middle, of the second column again. Brush, Bicheno. Size is again that 10% range. And we're going to just demonstrate where that lighting catches on this particular rock. It doesn't have to catch everywhere, but mainly perhaps just on the top edge there, coming all the way down to the right. I'll grab the blue at the bottom of the same column, little sort of dabbles of this here, there, maybe on the edges of some of those colors that we just created. And then go to your colors bottom of the third column. Bring that size down if you want, down to like a 7%. Get that beautiful highlight running then across the top of the rock on little areas that you feel the light would just go and bathe as it makes its way onto the scene. Now that's probably a little bit too consistent, I would say. You probably want to bring in like some lighting here and then leave a gap so that the light comes across a little bit further back. Let's then add in another one. So we're going to go ahead and tap on the rock below what we were just working on and create another new layer. Go to your colors, top of the second column, brush, Elphinstone, and we are going to draw in the rock that the actual deer is standing on. Now we're going to grab it from around about here. It's going to come across. Now it just needs to go ahead and make sure it's very close to the edge of the feet, because you want it to kind of, the deer to stand behind it. So you just want to make sure you're kind of just below the edge of your feet that you drew in, and then you can go all the way across and you can just let it come down there as well. And then just go a little bit lower than you need to, just to sort of make it quite big, but you also want it quite flat. And then drag and drop your colour in. Again, we'll go to our eraser by channel and do exactly the same thing. 18, 16%, just wiggle your pen along there, all sorts of different angles to embed this rock in the beautiful grass. Get that nice and small, about 5%, create like flicks. And by all means, as I've shown you before, go to your eraser and use the elphinstone and create actual blades in here that are like sat in front. Just create that grassy, natural look, embedding it again in the land. Now we're going to go ahead and tap on this layer, alpha lock it of course, go to your colours and grab the middle of the second column. Brush wants to be by channel. Size, I think you could go a little bit bigger, yeah, like 12%. And then just a little bit here, and we want to kind of also demonstrate how the legs are creating shadows, so you can kind of draw in the gaps to demonstrate kind of that effect. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just leaving like a little bit of colour of the original colour anyway here, just in this little line here, to create kind of like shadowish shapes here. It's not to say you can't like create, you know, like anything you want, but to be honest with you, that just nicely kind of breaks it up. If we turn off the guide as well, you get the idea for the lighting and what's happening here. It's coming down, giving you that lovely little bit of shadow. Now, it's not to say you're done with the highlights. You can grab the bottom of the third column. I turned off my guide just so I could see all of my line work, and I can definitely brighten up in these gaps. It's not to say I can't do that for sure, but you know, you don't want to get involved with the legs if possible. So you can create like additional levels of detail to the rock. Just a little bit of extra lighting, looks lovely. Now we're then going to move into a layer that I absolutely love doing. We're going to go ahead and add in just a ton of ground detail. So we're going to create a new layer, tap on it and clipping mask it to this stack that is all clipped to this bottom layer. Go to your colors, and we are just going to go to town on adding in beautiful sort of purposeful details. So you can start with the top of the third column. Brush wants to be elphinstone. Size is still 32% as it has been throughout. And then we are just going to draw in like big purposeful blades of grass here, especially right here at the front. You know, you can really create some big ones. Don't forget you're limited to the shape, so you don't want a line like this because it just comes to an abrupt dead end. So what we're doing is we're building up like tone in here, like lots of variety of like these grassy shapes here. Right down in here in this corner, I'm going to do the same in the bottom right as well, where I want to ultimately show like the grass is so big and it scales right up right in front of us, but that scale should then still somewhat carry on as it makes its way a bit further back in the scene. You know, so I'm just literally flicking my pen all over the place to just create blades of grass throughout the whole of here. You can create lots of small ones in the gaps. Now you can also, you know, if you're a bit sort of super fine with it, you could like draw here, for example, and like draw in some grass spitting out from between those rocks. Don't forget, you know, you've got the rocks in front of you, so I don't want to draw here because I'm drawing on top of the rock from absolutely nowhere. So yeah, just get those lovely details in throughout the whole of the design. Keep it nice and random, especially when you're in these kind of gaps here. So little bits of more color here, a couple more a little bit further back, just to add in variety of like grassy strokes. And again, this is where I'm really enjoying it. Much like the tree, you had a general kind of blanket of color, and then you add in purposeful color. So I'm going to bring my color now to the top of the fourth column. You could bring your opacity down if you want to like 70%, so you've got like stages to your color. And now we're going to do exactly the same here. These are brighter, more purposeful lines in here, all over the place. Let them come in from the outside of the scene as well. Just really, you know, go for it. However, one thing I want you to bear in mind is I want this bottom left hand corner to be a little bit darker. So what we draw here does not need to apply all the way throughout, in terms of we don't want to add highlight here very much at all. It's going to be like a lovely little dark corner of our design because the light is being blocked by the tree. So now you can just, these colors here they're fine enough that, you know, you can get away with just dashing them absolutely everywhere. but they can be a bit detrimental to your design and the lighting should you put them in the wrong place. Now we're going to go right over here. I'm probably going to crank up the opacity to 100%, so these are maximum brightness of this color tone, and just look, very light flicks up and down, all sorts of different directions, just scattering in some lovely purposeful kind of details in here, just trying to create this lovely natural space. Let that go all the way further back as well, like towards your boulder there as well, you know, really dash it around in there. Now, the other thing we want to also do is not just simply add in sort of grassy blades. With a 32% brush size, you can just tap and push to create like leaves or growths on these kind of grasses. It's just natural kind of flower or grass or leaf or whatever it may be. To be honest with you, you don't even need to work it out. You don't even need to understand what it is. You are just tapping and pushing to create like little bits of kind of detail, especially when you get a bit further back. Obviously, they want to be very small in your design. But like in these gaps here, you can cluster them together, you can leave little gaps, you can push them all out like from a few little spaces collectively. You know, you can follow a particular strand of your grass if you want to chuck some on them too. You know, just little dashes and pushes and scrapes. The shapes will need to be random, so I'm just literally pushing it in every direction I can think of to curate randomness. A little bit higher perhaps as well over there too. But this is where you can build up the natural beauty and like the feathering and the leaves and just growth in general. And look at the level of detail. Like it's just boom, it's gone crazy now and looks great. And you can just keep going all the way through your whole design. Perhaps it's even easier to do it when you are a little bit more zoomed out because you are not sort of overthinking it. You can just scatter it and also see the general sort of coverage. We're then going to go to our colours and we're going to keep working in brighter tones. Now you want to be a bit careful, of course, a little bit careful with this one, but you know, work it in. So you're now middle of the fourth column. You can work at the back first because this is where your light's going to come all the way through. It's going to highlight all the blades of grass. So you can start at the back, lots of flicks, and just put in play everything we've done up until now. So you can put like little flicks here. You can put little dashes. Of course, scale-wise, they want to somewhat be like a little bit smaller because they're a little bit further back in the scene. Just little taps throughout the whole of the design. Little taps here, little scrapes, little taps here perhaps. The light is just catching enough on those. Little sort of flicks in here and just go to town. We've got the yellow, of course, to add in a second as well. So everything will get super bright. Highlight a few strands as well. So it's like really bright on the edge over there. And this is what I was saying, that we can use it over here, maybe like 50% opacity and a few little dabbles of color, but ultimately like the color right in the very corner over here, we will leave a little bit more towards that muted side. Go back up to 100% and get your taps in over here too. Blades of grass at the same time. And we're just building up this intense level of kind of detail, but without overthinking it. Someone's going to look at this and go, wow, they must have spent some time here, particularly like placing this and that and whatnot. And it really doesn't need to be the case. Like you can just keep tapping away, flicking the brush all over the place just to curate detail. And it doesn't need to be too purposeful, you know, like you don't have to actually sit and meticulously work out where a blade of grass needs to go. You ain't got enough time in the day, and neither do I. Let's go to our colours and grab the yellow, bottom of the fourth column there. And again, these ones want to be much further back. Highlight blades of grass, get these in there, little taps here and there. Go over some of your other little dashes. So if you're happy with the density of it, go back over a lot of your previous dashes, like to illustrate kind of like growths and leaves, etc. It's going to get too dense otherwise, so you can just keep tapping away, adding in a few blades here and there, a few little details that you want to highlight, but ultimately that should be your ground done now. Now the one thing we want to then do is just kind of add in a bit of kind of a transfer to the background. So what we'll do is we will go ahead and create a new layer underneath our ground group. So drag it underneath, go to your colors and grab the color. I believe we want to grab this one here, the middle of the fourth column. Grab your brush and go back to Forester brush. It's under basics if you need it. 17%, just very lightly. I want you to kind of fade out like this land here by creating like an orange glow going backwards, as if it's like the land detail is there, like the land does go back there, but it's not like in scene enough. So it kind of just feathers out that sort of really harsh line. If you turn it on and off, you can see the difference of those color tones just changing enough, allowing us to get a nice softer approach. Okay, it's now time to move into the main subject, of course, our deer. Now we're going to go ahead, I'm going to create a new layer, tap on it and clipping mask it to the shape. I'm going to go to my colors and we are going to start working in some of the colors. Now we want to grab the middle first of all of the 5th column. Your brush is going to be the Baceno brush, it's going to be out throughout the whole of it. 13% brush size roughly. Now I do want to go ahead and bring back in my guide because there's a few lines in here that we do want to see. Now this grey tone, I'm going to go down to 7 in fact. This grey tone kind of want to live like a little bit like in here and almost like in the shadows to a degree. So that's going to come down the back of the leg, a little bit inside the leg as well. A little bit of a dabble of it over here on this side. And I'm going to bring that down just a little bit down the leg again, around the kind of knee shape, just keeping it very simple down in here, and then a little bit of dabble up the edge there. I'm also going to do the same on the left hand side here and kind of make my way around the back of the leg as well. And then just down here, inside of this leg, down here, and then a little bit around the edge of the leg here as well. So feel free to pause at that point if you need to go ahead and grab those kind of spaces. We're then going to move to the top of the same column, so top of the 5th column, which will then give us a slightly brighter version, which we can then just layer on a little bit closer towards the edges where the light perhaps is just going to wrap round. So again, I'm right up against like the edges over here, just down the leg a little bit as well, showing where that light is perhaps just catching on the inside and on the very edge as well. Just going to add in a bit more in there too, a little bit more in there as well. We can always come back to those particular colours. We're then going to move to our colours and we move then to this one. That is the middle of the 6th column. Now your brush, I'm going to probably end up keeping it close to around that 7%, but I'll like 7 to 10 roughly. Now we want to start sort of illustrating kind of the flow of the fur in like the body. So I've gone down to 7% because I want to bring that brown round the top, round down the side here, and then leave a gap where you've got this line here, and you want to bring the colour down off the top of the top of the shoulder almost, and then down and around, so it kind of goes a bit flat and then it rolls round, doesn't it? It kind of rolls round the belly shape. Leave a gap here between the top of the leg as well, and wrap that brown down and around towards the underside, leaving little gaps in there. So you're pushing the colour, but you're trying to leave gaps of where the natural shadows would be. You can also layer in some brown just a little bit in here inside that leg as well, or sorry, towards the outside edge in fact. And then we'll go down towards the bottom here, a couple of little bits of colour in here, lovely. And then we're going to do the same, we're going to come down off the shoulder again, down the edge here. Now you can make this line pretty strong if I'm honest, like, you know, just to outline the shape of the top, and then round here as well, just creating that little bit of the chest area here with a little bit of then a push down and then down the leg as well. Again, just leaving little edges in between. If I turn off my guide here, you should just about be able to see that you can identify the shapes between them. So I'm going to turn that back on, of course, and bring my guide back in. I'll just sort of connect them a little bit at the top. Then we're going to go ahead and come down through the chest. A little bit of brown, of course, pushing down and under into here. Over here on the right, this is like sticking out on its own, so you can really brown up the edge over here on the right and push down towards these lines. And then here, we want to wrap around the neck in towards the center, but creating kind of like that rounding of the neck and like pushing it in towards the center. Of course, we've got brighter tones to add in shortly, so this is kind of like our base color almost, rounding in towards that central point before the fur starts to kind of wrap around under the chest. We'll bring our size is still okay at 7, I believe, just a little bit underneath that face line. You can bring it down to 3% now and just get a few very, very minor details in here, such as like a little bit wrapping sort of down around the left hand side of the nose, underneath the eye, and kind of just pushing a little bit of colour in here, and then a little bit as well down the right hand side of the nose. This is probably going to get lost in a minute anyway, but it's just trying to sort of come down the bridge of the nose, then it's going to get quite dark there. You can just brown up here. You can come underneath this line here where we've got this kind of like almost monobrow like shape coming into play there. I'm just going to kind of wrap that around the face at the bottom. There we go. And then just over here, we'll go a little bit under there, underneath the eyes. We'll add in a little bit of kind of brown here. See how I'm going up and down between these lines here, all the way around to kind of the base of the antlers and the ears. The antlers, you can just do like a little bit of a horizontal line almost. And there we go. We should have just a very, very basic, and you can get in here now with this. I've got another marker here of 3%. Some like individual streaks in here should you want to like identify like little bits of extra fur, but we've got a long way to go, to be honest with you, so that's not particularly necessary. We'll go to our colors then. We move to the next color. That is the bottom of the same column, bottom of that 6th column. Probably want to be around about that 7 or 8% mark. And again, we're going to come over the top of that shoulder and we're going to push from there. We're going to bring that color down, round again onto the sort of lower side of the belly almost. But again, getting that directional line is really important. It shows how the light is flowing. We're going to come down and again onto the edge here of this leg. Keep it really light. That's what I'm doing. I'm keeping my pressure really, really light so that I can just let that color just flow down extremely gently and just make sure it's just nice and texturized as well. A little bit then over in the rear. Again, you kind of want to come down the spine and then round it off. So you come across and then start to round it off a little bit round here, pushing that down. You can get right up to the edge and probably add in a good amount of color there because the light is of course coming from just behind us there. You can bring it down just a smidge in towards the bottom there. And then again, I'm going to just wiggle my pen just ever so slightly just to blend that out, soften it as it rounds down and into the belly. Let's go ahead and make our way into the chest again. So similar kind of process. We want that neck to look fantastic. So we're going to come in from the outside edge. I'm going to keep pushing inwards, bringing that down towards there, pushing it and then blending that out where you need to. Just not going quite as far as the previous brown, of course, as we always tend to do. You know, you're layering in color, you're creating shadow. Bring that lovely color around the edges. And then again, we're going to tuck in some color just between the kind of like the tops of the legs, the little shoulders almost, just rounding, following those guides, bringing in some color on this right hand side. As I've said already, this is kind of its own isolated kind of shape over here. And then we'll bring in like a smidge of color down the leg. There we go. So you can see roughly what we're going for. It's just got a little bit brighter essentially. And then we're going to come up towards here. You probably want that brush size down to that. What marker was that again? That was 3%. Into the face. Now again, we want to kind of do like that top of the kind of monobrow almost area here. A little bit down that nose. A little bit of a blend out of that color down the kind of face, keeping it quite light and not too shapy, if that makes sense. Like we don't want the brush strokes to be too sharp and shaped because we want them to blend in a second like into the rest of the face. And I'm zooming out just so I can get an idea for that kind of blending. Perhaps like a little bit brighter around the base of the antlers. And then again, like a little couple of taps and very light little bit of texturizing up here, mind. In the same way we did before, a little bit of that vertical fashion. And then a little bit brighter in this gap here, again where the light perhaps is going to make its way in towards there. Then we're going to zoom out again. Let's check our colors. I think we could go to the top of the 4th column from the right there instead. 7% brush size. And let's go ahead and just brighten this up again. I want that highlight on the very top here to be evident. You know, we want to show that the light, of course, where that direction is coming from. We can blend in the other colors in a second, no problem. But we're just going to bring that color down a little bit again. Not quite as low as the previous color. Always the kind of rule, basically. And look, you can bring out the kind of muscular structure here of our deer. And then again, a little bit wrapping around into the chest. Just a tiny bit, not a lot. You see I just did 1, 2, 3 strokes there. And then a little bit, I want to leave that shadow in play. A little bit around the edge of the neck. I can bring the odd like random like streak in towards the center and that's fine. That just shows like that little bit's just getting a little bit more lighting, and that's fine. You can see I've also left this kind of patch because that's going to be a lovely grey patch as well. Now we're down to that 3%, brighten up the top of the nose again. Similar kind of fashions every time. A little bit across that brow at the top, perhaps a little bit down and around the face, just to add some, yeah, a little bit of colour on that side. That'll look lovely. It's going to go a lot whiter shortly. Add in a little bit of colour throughout the middle there, and then also around the base of the antlers, so where they like connect into the head. Just a little bit of extra colour. Let's go to our colours again. We then have this colour here, the middle of the, so in fact, let's go to the orange. Let's grab the bottom of the fourth column from the right. Back to that 7%, and let's get some of these lovely warmer tones in here. Now I really want you to keep this light, like with your pressure, like keep it super light as you do so. We're going to layer in that brighter tone on top of this in just a second, but this is just going to add in that little bit of warmth to, oh dear, somewhat trying to eliminate that shadow a little bit by just bringing the two and blending them on top of each other. And then we'll add in like a little streak of the sort of brighter tone. There we go. Zoom out. Look how much more structure we've got. We're going to come down the neck. We're going to somewhat leave a little bit of the underside. We'll add in like a little dabble of like the orange down the like back of the leg, perhaps like a little bit in there as well. But we'll focus now on the neck instead. So we'll bring that colour down, round in here, lovely brighter tone on that edge. Bring in the colour on the right hand side as well, flicking that from sort of left to right, just adding in that lovely scattering of colour. Again, we'll just add it on this shape as well, and then blend it, because you can get really light with your pressure and blend this brush. It looks great. And from there, I think we're actually okay. I don't think we need to necessarily add any to the face. We can go to our colours and grab that lighter tone, the middle of the fourth column from the right, and just layer that on top. Now this is going to kind of like whiten it almost, but you should still get a few little bits of the previous colour pop through. This is just about brightening up where we need now to sort of show our highlights the most. So we've got so many tones in here. You can bring that into the neck a little bit as well, just like a little bit of layering on there, and a little bit running through the center of the chest if you really need it. Perhaps a little bit as well down this leg, just to really show that muscular strength to that leg. And then let's start going into the really bright tones. This is where we can really bring out the face as well. So we're going to go to the top now of the third column from the right. Going to get underneath the chin there. So we're going to go to that 4% brush size, really light pressure, just kind of create like a patch, kind of all running out from underside of the chin. You want some dark tones in there as well, but you kind of want to just push outwards and just scatter and dash the color in to create this lovely patch here. And again, we've got a brighter tone to add in on top of this shortly, so this won't necessarily be your be all and end all. You can just push that down, creating the lovely furry patch. And again, let that texture of the brush come into play, because when you zoom all the way out, you should get those little bits of lining in there that just show you the texture. Now we are going to highlight a few edges as well shortly. You know, for example, we can use this brush size here to go down this edge, and again just kind of wrap around. You could do it with a 7% if you want, just kind of push around a little bit of lighting down here and then down and onto the neck area. I'm going to undo that last blob, it was a little bit too big. There we go. Keep the pressure nice and light, let that wrap round. I'm even going to add in like a dabble of it across the top, just trying to bring out some more tone, a little bit more color. There we go, a little bit brighter on there. Just again, I want to bring that light into play now more so than ever, so I can bring it just a little bit over the top. There we go, lovely. Now from there we need to start identifying the face, so let's go down to the 3% marker. This nose here, you see you've got two parallel lines to each other. If you just sort of follow in that gap, you'll be able to identify the nose, and then you can just wrap into there a tiny bit to show like the nostril area. And then you can go ahead and draw in this area here, this kind of bottom lip area. A little bit of whitening on there. Zoom all the way out. You should now get your nose come into play a lot more. And then we can start to brighten up like up here. So I've got the same brush size, 3%. I'm going to go up and round the top of the eye. And again, there's two parallel lines in the guide. You just kind of go round up there, like so. And then you can bring that color, like I want to bring the color like a little bit down and into the face down this edge as well. Trying not to sort of lose too much of the disconnect between the nose and the face. Of course, you want to have that disconnect in play. I'm going to go over the top of the eye over on this side as well, and again just fade that out on the edges. And then you can maybe just add in like a little bit of whitening sort of down the edge of the face as well, just to try and like tuck it into the bottom there as well, just underneath the mouth. There we go. Zoom all the way out. It should get so much more structure. It looks fantastic. Let's go up and over the brow. A little bit in there again. A little bit around the base of those antlers. And then just like a little bit of colour here. But really, what we're also going to do is we're going to bring the ears in now. You could probably go 7% and just push out somewhat. I'm going to go smaller. I'm going to go 3%. That was too big. I'm going to push out from the central sort of point up towards the edges, just to give yourself that light coat there of colour. And then we'll do the same over here. Press really lightly, push up and outwards. Just like to fluff up the inside. And if you add like a few dashes towards like here, like near the face, it would look like hair or fur, shall I say, that's like really close to the ear. Don't forget, we're so zoomed in that when you zoom all the way out and you see this level of scale, it comes together a lot more, doesn't it? So again, we'll go just a few more. I just want to sort of feather that in. You see it starts to get a bit smudgy, doesn't it? And you can make that to your advantage. Bring that colour around there. Lovely. And then I'm just going to do a little dash of colour just on the top of the nose. There we go. Then let's go to our colours. Let's start working in even more tones. So we grab the middle of the third column from the right now. You can start adding in some more strokes, maybe down the nose here. Just trying to feather that in, blend that in, maybe a little bit around the edge. Maybe another little bit of white, just a little bit towards the bottom of the face. You could perhaps as well just keep brightening up this edge, especially to bring in that lovely area. But we also really want to start brightening up this lovely fluffy chest here. So it's making sure that just underneath the face is a little bit darker, so you get that overhanging shadow. And then as you get further down towards the bottom of this patch, all of these miniature little brush strokes start to itemize like all the fluff and the hair. It looks fantastic. And what we'll then do is maybe just add in like a smidge of colour on the top up here, a little bit on there, and then a little bit around the rear as well, just to kind of again tie in the whole lighting situation. And the other thing we also want to do is make our brush size probably around about 1%. Let's add in a lovely little gem onto the eyes as well. So like a little dash of colour there and a little dash of colour out here too. You kind of want them to be a little bit wider because their eyes are quite far apart, to be fair. So you want them to be like the glow sitting towards the edges. So I'm just going to go and add in like a little couple of flicks of this colour along the head, just to add in a little bit of brightness as well in that gap in between. Maybe even thicken up the kind of brow area, but ultimately that's looking pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. A few little sort of streaks in there just for a variety of fur. And we can use these colours now to also go down our antlers as well. So you probably want to sort of keep your pressure nice and light and just follow the antlers all the way around. That light's just coming from over there, so you can brighten up like the inside. Turn off your guide as well in case it's getting in the way at this stage. Definitely a little bit brighter around the base of them. And then a little bit sort of catching on the inside of here. That's nice. A little bit of colour on the outside there, a little bit on the top edges. Zoom all the way out, get an idea for your finished kind of, well, I say finished, we're not fully finished yet, but you've got that kind of vibe coming together. And we do have another bright tone to introduce. It looks like I've made a mistake here somewhere, perhaps, so maybe I just need to kind of feather that out just by grabbing the base colour. That's fine. Let's go to our colours. We have this beautiful white tone here, which is obviously going to sort of make everything super bright. It's the bottom of that third column, and we will just add that in towards the very bottom of this lovely little patch here. And then you see I'm starting at the bottom and then making my way up so that I can layer on fur, because fur obviously then it layers on top of itself from bottom to top. A little bit there, a little bit of this white maybe just down the very edge of the neck. We want the face to have a little bit more whitening to it, so I'm going to go just a little bit over the top of the nose and kind of very, very lightly kind of blend that backwards. Likewise, I want a little bit more white around the face on that right hand side. That's pretty good to me. Maybe a smidge of brightness on the top of the brow area there, and maybe a little bit more around the base of those antlers. All in all though, that's what your deer should be looking like. Now we do then want to go ahead and create another new layer and tap on it and clipping mask it, but change the brush to the elphinstone, and then we want to add in like the little dots of the deer. So I've got the 32% brush size. Just going to make a variety of like little patches on here. Now of course at the minute they're all super white, but we're going to just use a layer effect in a second just to kind of tone them down. And I didn't want to destroy your deer work necessarily. So with that done, you can then just go ahead, and simple thing would be to bring the opacity down, bring it down to like a 61%, and then you've got your little spots on your deer all done. Now the next step is to keep going with the detail. To be honest with you, we're done with your deer. It's now about just finalizing the kind of scene. So we'll create a new layer. We're right at the top underneath our guide. We'll go to our colors. We're going to start working in some more of like leaves in the sky. So top of the third column, elphinstone brush again, 32%. Little taps throughout the whole of the scene. You can go absolutely everywhere now. You can just have leaves floating all over the place. You can even add more down in these corners should you need to. Like I could introduce, I think I did this in my pre-practices. I introduced like actually like a cluster of like leaves here, enough that it kind of portrayed a bush of sort. And that's just like a random thought of just being like, yeah, look, okay, let's chuck in some more here. Let's even chuck in some leaves by doing like 3 points outwards from one another, just lying on the rocks here. You know, you can really go to town with it now and just finish it up. The main thing for me is the float of the leaves in the sky. Like they just look like there's motion. We capture just this perfect point in which the deer's looking at us, and there's leaves floating around. Don't do too many, but you know, give yourself a good solid amount of them in the sky. It'll look great. All over the place though will look fantastic. Don't be afraid to get too close to your deer as well. Then go to your colors. Similar process, but we're going to jump straight to the middle of the fourth column as we've done before, of just going towards those little blotches now, and you can either add color to them or you can leave them. Especially the ones that are sat down here, definitely get onto those as well. Like again, 3 little sort of push outs. Don't worry, you can darken them up in a second because they're like obviously like stupidly bright. But here in your bush as well, just, you know, add in more leaves, and this is just like a spontaneous thing again, just to like chuck in, create some new motion in the scene. And I'm in love with this idea at the minute, especially with autumn. It's like perfect. You can capture that little bit of motion in the sky perfectly with just some floating leaves, and they just need to be super simple. Then go to your colors and go up a color, so up to the top of the fourth column, and then layer this, like it's going to essentially be a shadow color on top of the previous colors down here, for example. So you can just sort of hide the highlight a little bit. Likewise in these leaves, look at this, I'm just dashing color throughout the whole of the leaf, because of course the leaf would have a variety of colors in it, so while it sits there, it's fine for it to have that variety. And you can go over like some of your darkest spots in the sky here and just add in like a little dash of color on them. Don't be afraid to leave some of the darkest tones, that's perfectly fine, but you know, feel free to also flick some color here and there to add in some movement. We'll go to our colors. You can grab the red at the bottom of the fifth column, but bring your opacity down, I would say, with this one to like 50%, so you can layer it on top of some of your leaves and maybe add in like additional tone. But you can always tap and over tap yourself or like multiple times if you want to add in some more color. So for instance there, I've just added in like a few little specks. To be honest with you, they probably need toning down as well, but we'll see what it looks like at the very end. So I can tap a few times just to like layer in the red if I need it, but ultimately I can just keep tapping away, adding in the color on all of my little leaves floating in the sky. So the next step then is to just get into the final bit of lighting which makes it all pop. So we're going to go ahead and go down and in front of our background. So create a new layer in front of your leaves and your background area, which of course you can probably pinch together now if you want to onto one layer. We've got a new layer here. We're going to tap on it and change its blend mode from normal to the option of add and bring the opacity right down to about 45%. Go to your colors. You want to be grabbing the middle of the far right column. Brush wants to be set to Forester brush, so it's basically a soft airbrush. And then just up here, you kind of want to start to circular motion, and then just like a little bit, kind of probably a bit bigger than that. Let's go up to around about 32%, bit brighter up there, and bring that light down just to show how bright the sky is. And maybe just like a little sort of dabble or something just behind your deer, just to really make it pop. And you should start to get a little bit of that kind of blown out look to it, which I think looks pretty good. We're then going to go ahead and do the same as I mentioned before about adding in a lighting effect to the tree. So you want to be in front of your tree here and create a new layer. Change blur mode from normal to add. And I would probably bring it down to about sort of, let's just go down to 70% or 75% just to get us started. And I'm going to tap on it and also clip it to the leaves. You want a much smaller brush size though, probably around about 10%, and just find your little hole that you made, your little gap, and just go around in a circular motion just to kind of build up that light source, just poking its way through, so that we have an idea of the directional lighting, like where is that lighting coming from, and just go around in a circular motion. But it's more just about here that you want it to be its brightest, just so you get the idea. It doesn't need to be super bright, but just a little bit. You also want to go ahead and go to your ground group, open that up, tap on the top layer and create a new layer, and tap on it and clipping mask it. Also change the blend mode from normal to add, and then just down here, just round about where your deer is, bring that brush size down to about 5 or 6%. You can just start to just maybe bring in a wiggle of brightness on the very edge of the kind of the ground there, and that light just trickling its way through. Now you don't want to kind of get in the way of your rock there, so I just need to go ahead and tone that down, but just you can bring in a wiggle of colour through here, and just triple checking it is set to add, which it is. Just lets that light just travel in, and that's why we kept this sort of bottom left corner nice and dark, because you don't need the light trickling in there because it's not coming through, we're not getting enough of it. Now that side over there, probably a little bit too bright. I could probably go to my eraser and hold down on it and kind of just use the same brush and just kind of feather that out a little bit, focusing that light of course in the distance. Now the next step is completely optional. You can go to your background here. I'd swipe it to the left and duplicate it, so you've got two, and I will turn off one of them. Then the bottom one, go to your adjustments, Gaussian blur, and swipe from left to right. And if you give yourself like a 7% Gaussian blur, you can give yourself that soft, beautiful sort of photography kind of background, and then tap on your adjustments when you're done. And that should give you that soft look to it. But again, you've got both options that I honestly can't pick. My wife picks the opposite to me every single time. So it's just like, which one do I prefer? So I think I'm going to roll with the blurred out background because it just gives so much focus and attention to the leaves as well as the deer. So I'm going to pinch your two fingers, go full screen with 4, and we end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. As always, make sure to tag me in your finished creations wherever you decide to share them. Make sure to check out my Patreon if you want even more tutorials. I post 3 there every single month, and they are exclusive to Patreon supporters, so make sure to check that out using the link in the description down below. And if you enjoyed this video here on YouTube, you'll love this one on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.